downtown Chicago, an American homecoming, the Chicago Vietnam Veterans Parade. A welcome home celebration for all veterans who served our country in Vietnam. Indeed, it's expected to be the largest parade ever in the United States honoring our Vietnam veterans. Good morning, I'm Rick Rosenthal.
And I'm Pat Harvey. Standing next to me is Bob Leonard. Bob is a Vietnam veteran, a national radio personality. He's also on the executive board of the parade committee. Now, Bob, I know we're expecting 1 million people to line this route and watch the parade. How many people are we talking about participating today?
I'll be honest with you, Pat. I've heard estimates from 80,000 to 300,000. I think to be extremely realistic, maybe 80 to 100,000 participants.
So that's still a big number, even bigger than New York's last year.
We've got quite a vantage point for the parade ourselves. We are about 10 to 12 feet above street level, down at street level, and getting ready for a number of interviews. Christine Negroni. Let's go to Chris.
Rick, we want to talk to a number of people today. We want to talk to the mayor and the governor. We want to talk to General Westmoreland. And most of all, we want to talk to the Vietnam veterans who are participating in this parade, marching in it and watching from the sidelines. And I will try and bring you introductions to some of those people.
We are reliably informed that the parade has begun. We are at LaSalle in Washington, as is the reviewing stand. Mayor Washington will be there. Governor Thompson is expected. A number of other dignitaries and VIPs. Mary Carol Lemon, who is head of the Illinois chapter of the POW-MIA families, League of Families of POWs and MIAs. There are over 2,400 American servicemen who will not be forgotten this day. They are the ones who are still unaccounted for, lo these many years after the Vietnam War. The parade, we're told, has begun. Pat, we don't see it yet. It's not at our vantage point at LaSalle in Washington.
No, but we know they have assembled at Olive Park. In fact, I heard some of the veterans at Navy Pier at around 7:30 this morning. So they are certainly there. It's going to take them a while, I guess, to come down to our reviewing stand. Rick mentioned some 2,400 men and women who will not be here today that are still missing in action. They will be remembered, especially tomorrow at services at the Daly Center around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So they will certainly be accounted for. Other people we're expecting today, 80 congressional Medal of Honor recipients, and that's supposed to be the largest assembly of that ever.
Bob Leonard, what does this parade mean to you as a veteran?
To me as a veteran, I think it means, Rick, that it's the healing process has reached its peak. We've gotten to the point where the veteran, the non-veteran, those who were against the war, those who were for the war, are finally coming to terms with the war, a war that was extremely unpopular.
Yeah, it's really a healing process not only for those who participated, but for those who were opposed to it. They've got some healing to do, too.
It's for everybody.
Well, they said this parade was for those that were against the war and those that were for the war. You know, if I could reflect for just a minute, gentlemen, I was 13 when we started. We were in the Vietnam War, but I can remember through pictures. I'm going to name a specific picture for you, Bob, and you can maybe reflect on that a little bit. A little girl, naked, running, screaming, old Vietnamese girl. All the pictorial magazines carried this picture. It meant a lot to me, even though I wasn't there.
I think perhaps because you were a little girl yourself, and you were relating from a little girl living in this country to somebody who was completely alien to you, but to the Vietnamese at that time, that was a way of life. You know, another picture that I tend to reflect on a lot is the Viet Cong who was captured and shot at handgun point. Just in some of the photojournalism was just incredible.
A lot of memories for a lot of people, probably for anyone who is old enough to have any recollection at all of what went on during those tragic years during the 1960s and early 70s. You're seeing some of the crowd that has assembled here along LaSalle Street. It is not a terribly large crowd. Everybody fairly subdued. You'll see lots of flags. You'll see buttons. You will see an official program that some vendors are selling for $3 a copy, or if you'd like to spend an extra 50 cents, you can send away for one. Capitalism is alive and well on LaSalle Street, but I guess if any place, this is a good place for it to be alive and well. The route of march today from Milton Olive Park, and the parade has stepped off as of 10. West on Grand to State Street. There's plenty of room here on LaSalle Street, as you can see, but if you'd like to pick up the parade a little bit earlier or a little bit later, this is the direction they'll be taking. West on Grand to State Street, then south on State to Wacker Drive. They'll head west on Wacker to LaSalle, then drop south on LaSalle past us and the official reviewing stand across the street from us at LaSalle and Washington, on south on LaSalle to Jackson, and then back east on Jackson to Grant Park. And there in Grant Park, there is that striking half-sized replica of what is known, Bob, as the Wall.
The Wall. The Wall. Something
250 feet long.
Yeah, that's a half-size, exact half-size replica of the one in Washington, D.C. This one's made out of plastic, but it's exact to a T.
I understand that the names of 8,000 women were added to the wall just recently. 10,000 women served in Vietnam. Most
as a matter of fact, there's a women's memorial which will be commemorated here today during the parade, and there are funds being raised for that, which we'll talk about later on.
Okay. Rick was mentioning the parade route. I think we should mention here, too, to people who want to come downtown, perhaps view the parade if you're just down here to do some shopping or whatever. Grand Avenue, Wacker, and Jackson Streets are open to traffic running north and south. But your best, according to Chicago's finest, is to take the subway today. I mean, save yourself the headache.
You know, Pat, you mentioned the memorial for the POWs tomorrow. It might be noted that there are about 200 POWs that are going to be in the parade today. From Hawaii, South Jersey, the Chicago chapter of American POWs, and they're going to be represented quite nicely here.
Fantastic.
This is a parade not only for Vietnam veterans, they of course are the focus, but this in a way I think is a parade for veterans of all of the wars, all of those past, and we hope none in the future. Among them World War II veterans, and Christine Negroni has one of them. Chris?
Rick, I'm standing here with Bill Morrison, who is a member of the American Legion and a World War II veteran, and he's here today. Tell me why. Tell me why you've decided this is important to you.
Well, I feel that I didn't get any real welcome home except from my mother when I get home in March of '46. You remember one coming into New York Harbor that I'll never forget, coming by the Statue of Liberty. When we went over, everything was blacked out. When we come back, everybody on the ship was lined up along the rail, and the Statue of Liberty, and there wasn't a sound. It's a thing I can never forget.
Well, hopefully this will be a moving experience for the Vietnam veterans coming home.
It is.
We will go back up to the reviewing stand with Rick and Pat.
Okay, Chris, flags abound up and down LaSalle Street, as you can see, and if we can get a close-up shot of the U.S. flag over there at City Hall, you'll see flying beneath it the black flag with the symbol of the MIAs and POWs. As I said, there are some 2,400 plus of those American servicemen still not accounted for after the Vietnam War.
We also have a number of reporters, in fact, Rick, joining Christine. Larry Roderick is standing by now in Olive Park. We're going to go to him, see what's happening out there. Larry, can you hear us?
Indeed I can, Pat. As far as the eye can see here in front of Navy Pier, men and women have lined up. They started gathering here at this pier, I am told, before dawn, a very chilly dawn. We were supposed to have highs near 80 today. Here, as I stand, we have the wind out of the north. It is very chilly, and the people who came here in T-shirts and cut-off shorts are feeling the effects of that cold. People came here, as I said early this morning, expecting to see one thing, what you referred to, Pat and Rick and Bob, as a healing process. From what I have been able to gather so far, that healing process indeed has begun. Standing down in the middle of this crowd just about 20 minutes ago, talking with these men and women who came back from places with strange sounding names, names that still don't quite compute. Names like Hue, Da Nang, Saigon, Khe Sanh. Names that we only read in history books now. The kids in the schools don't relate to it. The parade stepped off about 40 minutes ago. Parade Marshal General William Westmoreland, who led all U.S. forces in Vietnam from 1964 until 1968. But you may not have been able to see in that short bite of videotape a man who rolled along next to General Westmoreland, a crippled Vietnam veteran. His name is Patridge. He achieved fame in the Vietnam War, but much more recently, just within the past couple of weeks, he achieved fame right here at home, leaving his wheelchair, crawling across the ground and up some steps to a pool to save the life of a young child. It is valor such as that that is remembered by the men and women behind me along this parade route. There are men and women whose eyes are red with tears of remembering their comrades having fallen in the muddy fields of Vietnam. And indeed, there are men and women whose eyes are reddened by all-night revelries in the hotel rooms. They had all come together here and we assume that the healing process will continue. From my vantage point, indeed it has. Back to you, Pat and Rick.
Thank you, Larry. Well, Rick, I think I see some Harleys in the distance here, the not too far distance either.
They are at the head of LaSalle Street now. They've just made the turn, dropping south from Wacker Drive onto LaSalle Street. The parade is heading our way, and that means it's heading your way. Let us take a quick break for a commercial, and we will return to Chicago's Vietnam Veterans Welcome Home Parade. With Pat Harvey and Vietnam veteran Bob Leonard, I'm Rick Rosenthal. We welcome you back to Chicago's Vietnam Veterans Welcome Home Parade. You can see them heading down LaSalle Street, Pat.
You sure can, Rick, and there's the ticker tape. There's supposed to be 10 Harleys, 10 special police motorcycles that are leading this contingency here. Interesting to note, Rick, that the parade is divided into 3 sections, red, white, and blue.
I just wonder
Quite
how...
appropriate.
Indeed it is, and I wonder how long they'll be able to maintain that. I suspect that anybody who wants to march in this parade is more than welcome. Not only the veterans, of course, this is the focus, as we've said, but Bob, I suspect anybody who wants to tag along, family members, particularly the wives and kids, I suspect we'll see them all.
They're hoping for anybody who wants to just come along and link arms and walk down the streets with them, because, like I said, it's a healing process for everybody, and they want everybody involved. It's America's parade.
Exactly right. Well said. And boy, as you look at the crowd, we're watching the parade advance down LaSalle Street. You can look at the crowd, and I see everything from babes in arms to senior citizens that must be well in their 70s and perhaps 80s. A couple of older gentlemen who are wearing veterans apparel of one kind or another. So this really is an American parade.
Well, from what I understand, they will have participants from 40 states. Is that correct? But not just the Midwest area, primarily Midwest, but 40 states?
I think at least 40 states, as well as Australia and I believe Korea. And perhaps, I'm sure there'll be some South Vietnamese marching, too.
Well, we're talking in the Midwest area, some 725,000 veterans who served in the war out of 3.5 million people. So a lot of people concentrated right here from the Midwest area served in Vietnam.
Well, don't forget, this was the post-war baby boom, post-World War II. So that the bulk of the people who were born went to Vietnam. The timing was just like that, so that there's a huge amount of Vietnam veterans.
We can see a better picture now, too, of course, of the color guard and the thousands behind them carrying the American flag.
This is going to be a long parade, according to the schedule.
2.8 miles.
Close enough to 3, yeah.
And 3.5 hours long, approximately.
So they estimate.
I think it may run a little bit longer than that, though.
I think so, too. Of course, we're going to be here until noon. Then we have a Cubs-St. Louis doubleheader that is coming up after the
parade. Go Cubs.
We might remind our viewers that we will have complete parade coverage tonight on the 9 o'clock news. So if we pull away from it at noon because of the Cubs broadcast, be undismayed. We'll have full coverage tonight at 9.
For sure. We didn't mention we have another of our Channel 9 reporters standing by at Grant Park, Muriel Clare. And we'll be hearing from Muriel. It'll probably take a little while, though, for these people to reach Grant Park.